Hey, what's up? Got a real mind bender for you here. Stop icing injuries, please. Okay, so this is going to be a quick one. I'm not going to show you the research because I spent so much time and energy looking for it myself. I'm confident that you can find the same research on your own, which would be far more beneficial than me picking and choosing the research that I like, because then you would just say, oh, well, he just found whatever supported his ideas and posted them up here. Nope, go look at it yourself. And we'll cover a couple of things and we'll talk about why. So that will kind of guide your search. So, I mean, maybe you're a patient, you're looking at this. Most patients, when we talk about this, are like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. When we talk to doctors and physical therapists, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so stupid. Why would you ever say that? We've been doing this forever, so why would we stop? But they've never even like looked at the research on it. So it turns out there's a better way, and you're never going to find it if you're, a stubborn stick in the mud. Hey, grow and expand your skills and your thinking and how you communicate with patients. How about that? So here's the deal. Fluid is only removed from the body by one mechanism, and that is the lymphatic system. Okay, the lymphatic system is a one-way street unless you've got lymphatic dysfunction where you develop lymphedema. We're not talking about that. We're talking about normal people with normal lymphatic systems. It's a one-way track, okay? The valves only move like that and let fluid through, and they do not let it backflow unless there's something wrong with the system, okay? But the only way the lymphatic system works, its motor, its engine, is muscle pumping, okay? Once it gets in the trunk, it is milked along by large vessel pulsation. So we're looking at like aorta and vena cava, helping complete the process of getting fluid up to the heart so it can be filtered out in the bloodstream and you pee it out later. So here's the deal. We know how the lymphatic system works. We know how the body's physiology works around the healing process. And so we know that icing is a direct counter to what the body is trying to do. The body is trying to increase inflammation, increase inflammatory markers, because those inflammatory markers are what elicit the response for steps 1, 2, and 3 of the healing process. And so ice actually does the opposite of those things. And when you look at what does the ice do and what does the body want to do, you can see they're like polar. Okay. The other thing is ice does not make your muscles pump. In fact, it makes it more difficult for your muscles to function because they're cold and the nervous system slows down, and it makes moving your muscles even harder. There is also new research showing like icing a local area actually permeates the lymphatic system and creates a local backflow. Like the fluid that is in the lymphatic system is now leaking out. It's not flowing back down the lymphatic system. It's just spilling out wherever it's at. So there's a lot of research now stacking up against using ice. But here's the big conversation. The only way fluid moves is by pumping the muscles, okay? Active. It's got to be active. It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be weight bearing, but it has to be active. Ice does the opposite, and so we don't want to do that. Anything that slows the healing process down essentially is just dragging out the process. The body is going to put whatever it wants in the area there. If you slow it down, when the body picks back up to 98.6 degrees, this process is just going to start back over and put what it wants there. So you might as well let it run its course and then use your body's own internal mechanisms to help filter out the junk in a faster way. We use the Mark Pro to do this. It pumps the muscle over and over and over. It's non-fatiguing. It's non-painful. And we see fluid reduction in days rather than weeks or months. So it works, and it's much better than just sitting around on a bag of ice. Most patients hate icing anyway, and so they're relieved when you say, hey, we don't think it works, the research doesn't support it, and so we're not going to do it. I hope, thank goodness, I hate doing it. So here's the ideas here. The research doesn't support it. It's all inconclusive. You get to the end of a research study, and it says we need further evidence to really decide is this working or not. Okay, so if you're practicing evidence-based medicine, stop using a bunch of inconclusive evidence anyway. Okay, look at the science behind how does the body clear fluid and how does the body heal, and then figure out in your own brain how you can facilitate those processes and not do something that alters or inhibits the process, changes the process, or slows the process down. All right. So stop icing injuries, please. It doesn't work. The next big thing that no research is even addressing, and maybe the most mind-boggling, is there's got to be a certain temperature required to create the result internally anyway, right? And we don't know what that temperature is. And certainly if you come out of surgery and you've got 74 layers of bandaging on with an ice bag sitting on top of it, that's not doing anything. That ice would have to be so freaking cold to create a temperature reduction in the skin below all the bandaging that would actually change the internal processes, like cellularly, that they think ice is doing anyway. It doesn't make sense. So, like, stop putting ice on top of your bandaging and wasting your time. It's not getting down, okay? And then there's a lot of risk with putting ice directly on the skin with skin damage, nerve damage, a whole host of things. There's plenty of research on that. But here's the truth about icing is that you put an ice bag on and you drape it over your skin, okay? Well, if you're really, really lean and you have thin skin, no fat tissue whatsoever, the amount of cooling you get is far beyond what somebody gets who's got a really thick ankle, maybe a lot of fat mass underneath. And then so what is the temperature? And then at what temperature for how long? And for, when you do it for how long, what are the risks that you have when you have a certain temperature over a period of time? And what is the correct temperature and length of time that you're supposed to do this to get a specific result? And what is the result? Because we know it's not going to move fluid. And just basic laws of, thermodynamics and fluid dynamics. Cold fluid moves slower than hot fluid. So freezing all the fluid inside your tissue, it might compact it, make it look like it's less swelling, but it's really not. And it's just making your body harder to flush that out because the fluid becomes viscous when it gets cold. All right, you want it to be thin, watery swelling that can just pump right out of there. The lymphatic system is already tiny anyway, and it's already going to take forever. Don't freeze the fluid, make it harder to get out of there than it already is. All right, so there's just a lot of holes that we can poke in the icing thing because the research doesn't support it. It's all inconclusive. It doesn't follow along with physiology and how the body's healing and the inflammatory process that is what creates new blood flow, tissue healing, remodeling, and then you eventually get to reloading, which is in the rehab space. But there's just nothing to really support it. But we do know that active recovery works really well, and we got a lot of good research coming out on that. And so these are just some things to think about. If you're a patient, you're using a lot of ice, you may notice that, hey, it's not really working. You might get temporary pain relief, but at what expense? You're just slowing your healing process down. You're not really moving the fluid out. And if you're doing it for pain, you might get temporary pain relief, but you need to understand pain is coming from your joint or your tissues being packed full of fluid. So anytime we see like a swollen joint, the pain producer and the motion limiter is the swelling. So focusing on getting rid of the pain is not worth a whole lot because you need to focus on getting rid of the source of the pain, which is the swelling. Okay, the inflammatory process is going to create the swelling, so there's pain involved there, but you've got to evacuate the fluid out of the area if you want to get your motion back and you want to get your pain down. That's just the way it is. Just shift your focus away from chasing pain and trying to minimize pain and focus on facilitating the body's processes to heal faster and evacuate the fluid faster so that you can have less pain and restore motion. So you can get back to remodeling and reloading faster. So that's really where you want to be. You want to be in the reloading phase because that means your tissues are healed, your joint is moving well, and you're fast tracking yourself back to whatever it is you were doing before you got hurt. So if you're a doc or physio or an athletic trainer or somebody who's an avid ice user, that's flying in the face of everything you know. And I understand. But do the research and be honest and open in your own mind. Go attack this stuff with let's just look and see what it says. If you go in with the preconceived notion that I'm an idiot, you will find plenty of evidence to support that. But the truth is, the way the body works doesn't support using ice. The way the ice research is put together doesn't support using it either. And there are better ways to help your patients get rid of pain and reduce swelling than just slapping an ice bag on them, because you're going to get $8 at the end of your treatment by just letting them sit there. Okay, that's a wrap. See you later.